Hello! Welcome back to Students Ace Life, and welcome if you're new. My name is Fevette, and today's video is about how to eliminate anxiety, specifically test anxiety. And this is a major problem for many students because not knowing how to manage or reduce your anxiety and stress levels can be very detrimental to your scores in a test and your results. And if you want to reduce your anxiety and know how to manage your stress level, then you need to look into that and really treat it as a major issue instead of minimalizing it or even labeling yourself as an anxious person in general or a stressed person, because that doesn't help. Most of us aren't very anxious people, but we give off negative and anxious energy when we are put in fear-inducing events. So if you want to eliminate that, keep watching and please show your support by liking this video, commenting down below, and subscribing to the channel for more information of this kind. The first tip is to not procrastinate. The truth is that cramming for exams is the worst thing you can do for your mental health and for information retention. If you really want to perform well on any exam, you need to know the information. And cramming has scientifically not been a good way to study for exams. In order to battle any kind of uncertainty that you are anxious about, you have to be well prepared. And preparation is in contradiction to procrastinating. So if you procrastinate, you're not going to be well prepared, and thus you're not going to be confident in your abilities. If you feel anxious just thinking about your to-dos and all the tasks that you have to check off for a study session, then you're going to be overwhelmed and you're not going to do anything. So I recommend that you break all your study sessions into small chunks and little to-dos that you can actually handle and not break down, and attack each study session slowly and gradually and build off one by one instead of thinking about this whole big thing that you have to get done. So do not procrastinate and be well prepared, because preparation is the key to conquer any uncertainty. The second tip is to summarize. After you have gotten yourself to actually sit down to study and not procrastinate, you need to know what you're gonna study. And to that end, I say summarize, because in reality, you don't need to know every single detail that is mentioned in your textbook for any unit you're studying. You don't need to know all the details that your teachers talk about in lectures or in videos that they make you watch. You don't need to know all these details. You need to know, as a student, the essence of what you're studying. And a lot of people are going to conflict with that idea, but you really don't need to know little details and little facts unless you are competing in a Knowledge Bowl or a Jeopardy contest. All you need to be able to do on a test is give the main ideas, the important facts, the names of the people that were the most prominent during that time period for any history class, the names of events, the names of places that were very important to that time period, So you need to be able to reiterate the importance of certain facts and events and dates, not details that don't matter or don't contribute to the main concepts that you are trying to learn in that unit. If you don't know how to build an effective study guide, I recommend you check out the video below. I'll link it down in the description box. What I basically suggest in that video is to break each chapter or each unit into different chapters, and then break each chapter into smaller sections, and each segment into the 3 to 5 main points that you need to be able to retain from that little section of each chapter and each unit. So if you break down things gradually and you go from big to small to small to small, you're gonna actually retain a lot more than you think you will. So check out the link below for the video, and make sure to use the sample study guide down in the description box. The third tip is to use spaced repetition. We've already established that cramming for exams is a form of procrastination. And to combat procrastination, you have to be prepared. And to be prepared, you need to study. So how exactly do you study? What's the best or most effective method? And that effective method is spaced repetition. Spaced repetition is a process of studying in intervals. So the pieces of information that you remember or that you know better get spaced out further, while the ones that you often miss or often don't remember get repeated in more frequent intervals. And this assures that you repeat the things that you need to know and not focus as much time and energy on the things that you already know. The fourth tip to combat test anxiety is to stay organized. A major cause of test anxiety for many students is a lack of organization. Students don't know what to keep track of and how to keep track of it. So the major thing that you have to keep track of really to reduce your test anxiety are the due dates or the deadlines of projects that lead up to your tests and that are important for your grades, so you're not stressed out about that, and also the dates of the exams themselves. You have to keep track of that in a calendar or a planner or some kind of system that you use to remember the important dates that you have to take care of. The fifth tip is to review and revise and review. You have no idea how many points and how many tests that I have redeemed for myself because I went back and double checked, and I went back and reviewed my work, and I went back and I redid those problems, and I looked at those questions, and I read them again, and I analyzed them, and I looked at it from 100 different point of views. This saved me on so many different levels. There's this phrase that I love to repeat to myself whenever I'm doing a major project or taking a test or just anything in general that is important to me, and it is to double check yourself before you double wreck yourself, because that is very true. Double check yourself before you double wreck yourself. You can never really go wrong with double checking. The worst case scenario is you're gonna lose a few minutes or just, spend a few extra minutes on a test that you don't want to spend. But you're gonna save yourself a lot of points in the long run that you would have otherwise lost if you didn't double check. The sixth tip is to visualize. Many people feel a lot of anxiety before specific events because of the fear of failure. And fear is such a crippling force. Fear literally deadens the creative process, and it shuts off your right cerebral hemisphere, which is responsible for artistic expression and creative action, creative strategic action. So how do you combat this? How do you intentionally calm down your mind and put into it the thoughts that you want it to think? And that requires a conscious action. That conscious action is to literally, whenever you feel anxious, whenever you feel stressed, to close your eyes and to think about the things that you want to happen instead of the negative thoughts that pop into your head and that threaten to happen to you. So imagine what you want to happen on test day. Imagine what you want yourself to look like. How do you want to tackle the problems? How do you want to go about solving the problems? Imagine yourself in those scenarios and imagine the way that you want it to happen. Put into your mind intentionally the thoughts that you want it to think. Instead of surrendering to whatever thought pops in your head, intentionally change those thoughts and take initiative to be your own mind programmer. Basically, you want to create in your mind what you want to happen in your reality. Why would you do that? Because your brain can't tell the difference between something you are physically experiencing in the now and here and something you are mentally creating. So when you are creating something in your mind, you are literally carving down the neural routes that your brain would take if the event were to take place right now. Creating stuff in your mind on purpose using thoughts is so powerful, because it literally carves the neural path that your brain is gonna take when that thing happens to you for real this time. Also, when it comes time for you to take that test, you will be acting out of an experienced state. And when you've done something previously, you're calm because you know you've done it before. You know that you can do it because you've done it in the past. History bears evidence for what you can do in the future. The seventh and last tip is to sleep. Sleep is a topic that a lot of people minimize, regardless of how important it scientifically is. Sleep is not just important for biological health and your physical well-being, but it's important for cognition and information retention. And when we're talking about students and when we're talking about testing, sleep is a factor that we really can't avoid. If you want to have heightened senses at all times, if you want to be fast in your reflexes and in the amount of time it takes you to think and remember certain pieces of information, if you want to have a high cognitive performance, then you must utilize this process of sleep. Pulling all-nighters too frequently and staying up late working on projects, homework, is really detrimental to long-term academic success. You need to be sharp and have heightened senses at all times for social events, for sporting events, for testing. A lack of sleep does exactly the opposite. It slows your response time. It decreases your memory retention. It increases the occurrence of emotional states associated with mental disorders like anxiety, paranoia, and depression. It's not enough to get enough sleep the night before an exam. You have to make a habit out of getting enough sleep every single day, because one day out of a row of all-nighters isn't really gonna be helpful to you in the long term. So make a habit of getting good quality sleep every single night. Alright, you guys, this is it. This is the video. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been incredibly fulfilling talking about all of these topics, as you probably have noticed. I hope that you were able to get something very important out of this video. And as always, I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful week.